So imagine you had exactly 1 lakh rupees back in the year 2000.
Okay, a decent amount of money back then.
Right. And you just, tuck it away. You just let it sit there. What is it worth today?
I mean, people always underestimate that number.
Oh, totally. The answer to that will probably shock you. But the real surprise, the thing we are really unpacking today in this deep dive, isn't just about how much wealth you can build by being patient.
Right, the patience part is just the baseline.
Exactly. It's actually about how easily, how quietly, and how accidentally you could destroy half of that wealth.
Just poof, gone.
Yeah, and all while genuinely believing you are making a smart, responsible financial move, we are taking a really hard look at the reality behind what feels like common sense.
It really is kind of the ultimate financial illusion.
Yeah.
You look at your portfolio, you see these incredible gains, and you think, I'm making an active choice to protect my money by cashing out some of those profits.
Which sounds completely logical.
It does.
Mhm.
But instead, you are secretly sabotaging the very engine that creates the wealth in the first place. I mean, you are basically dismantling your own success.
So let's dive into the mechanics of that illusion. Today's source material is this fascinating financial case study. It's titled Profit Booking HDFC FlexiCap, and we are putting a wildly popular investing strategy, profit booking, head-to-head against the classic buy and hold approach.
And to really do this justice, to see how these strategies play out in the real world, we are looking at a massive 26-year time horizon.
Right, from January 1st, 2000, all the way to March 25th, 2026.
Yeah, and a timeline of over 2.5 decades is crucial here. Like, that is long enough to encompass multiple boom markets.
Devastating global crash.
Exactly, and everything in between. It
Yeah.
allows us to see exactly how wealth is built block by block, and more importantly, how it is quietly eroded by decisions that, well, feel entirely logical in the heat of the moment.
Right. So before we can understand how you lose all this money, we have to establish how you actually make it, right? We need a baseline.
Let's set the stage.
So let's say you take your 1 lakh rupees and you invest it in that HDFC FlexiCap fund. And just for anyone unfamiliar, a FlexiCap fund is simply a mutual fund that has the freedom to invest across small, medium, and large companies.
Yeah, it basically adapts to the market. It essentially acts as a proxy for the broader growth of the economy.
Exactly. Now, in our baseline scenario, you practice the ultimate, most difficult form of financial discipline.
Doing absolutely nothing,
You do absolutely nothing. You don't touch it. You don't move it. You don't check your app every morning.
which is so hard to do.
Oh, it's impossible for most people. But if you do that, the final value of that initial 1 lakh investment reaches a staggering 74,085,547 rupees.
I mean, from 1 lakh to nearly 75 lakh, the growth metrics on this are just phenomenal.
It's insane.
It represents a 74.8x total growth multiplier. And when you calculate the compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, it comes out to roughly 17.9% per year,
Every single year.
every single year, on average for 26 years.
Wow. I mean, a 17.9% return over decades, that is the kind of number that changes family trees.
It really is. And the purity of that number is what we really need to focus on here. That 17.9% CAGR isn't the result of someone being like a genius day trader.
Right. You're not sitting at a terminal with 6 monitors.
No, not at all. It isn't about perfectly timing the market or having inside information. It is the pure, unadulterated result of uninterrupted compounding.
Uninterrupted being the key word there.
Exactly. Compounding only works its true magic when it is left entirely alone. It requires two things to function: time and a constantly growing base of mass.
It's like, think about planting an oak tree in your backyard, right? You dig a hole, you put the seed in the ground, and you walk away.
You might water it occasionally.
Yeah, maybe water it, but you don't dig it up every 3 years to check the roots, You don't pull it out of the dirt to measure how much it has grown.
Because if you do that, you shock the system.
Right. The tree stops growing, it has to heal, and it loses its momentum. You just have to let it be.
That is a perfect analogy. The root system of your wealth needs to spread out undisturbed. Every time you dig it up, you are interrupting the mathematical momentum.
But the problem, though, is that human beings are psychologically wired to hate sitting still.
We really are.
Doing nothing feels, irresponsible.
Oh, it completely does.
Mhm.
If you are sitting on massive, life-changing profits, it is just basic human nature to want to secure them. You think, I've made so much money on paper, I need to lock this in before the market takes it all away.
Yeah, I gotta get mine while the getting's good. So let's say I decide I don't want to just sit on my hands. I want to play it safe. I want to execute a profit booking strategy. How exactly does that work in this model?
Well, the standard profit booking strategy involves looking at your massive gains, selling your entire holding to quote-unquote lock in the profit,
Okay.
paying the required taxes on those gains to the government, and then immediately reinvesting the remaining amount back into the market.
So you feel safe because you have theoretically secured your wins.
Exactly. And in this specific 26-year case study, the investor does this 5 times. They choose to tinker and book their profits in the years 2003, 2008, 2020, 2022, and 2026.
Okay. And whenever you sell at a profit, obviously the tax man is waiting.
Oh, always.
So the tax reality here is pretty straightforward based on the notes. Each time you execute this profit booking maneuver, you owe a 12.5% tax on your gains plus a small cess, like a 4% surcharge.
Right.
So you are looking at an effective tax hit of exactly 13% on your profit portion. You slice off 13% of your wins and hand it over 5 different times.
Essentially, you are paying a toll to reset your psychological comfort level.
Okay, and I have to push back on this because looking at those numbers, a 13% tax simply doesn't sound that terrifying.
You'd think so.
Right. Like if my money is compounding at nearly 18% a year and I have grown my wealth by a massive multiple, losing 13% of the profit just 5 times over 2.5 decades seems like, I don't know, a minor annoyance.
A drop in the bucket.
Yeah. It feels like the cost of doing business. If I have $1,000,000 rupees in profit and the government takes 130,000, I still have 870,000 that's going to keep growing at 18% a year.
Yeah.
I'll make that tax money back in a matter of months. Is this really the disaster you're making it out to be?
Your reaction is incredibly common, and it highlights exactly where human intuition completely fails us.
How so?
Well, our brains are not wired to understand exponential math. You are thinking of that 13% tax as a flat, isolated event. You view it as a one-time fee paid out of your current pocket.
Right, a slice of the current pie.
But in the world of compounding, it is not a flat loss. It is a compounding loss.
Okay, walk me through the mechanics of a compounding loss. How does paying a flat 13% tax multiply against me?
Let's look at the concept of a compounding tax drag.
Right.
Like you said, imagine your wealth is a pie. Every time you book a profit, the government takes a 13% slice. So you are left with 87% of your original momentum.
Okay, I follow that.
If you do that 5 times, you aren't just losing 5 little slices. Because that pie was supposed to be growing exponentially, taking those slices early stunts the growth of the entire base. The money you gave to the government in 2003 isn't just gone. The massive returns that money would have generated over the next 23 years are also gone.
So you compound that slowdown, you take your remaining 87% momentum, and you basically multiply it by itself 5 times.
Exactly. And mathematically, 0.87 to the power of 5 comes out to approximately 0.50.
Right. It's exactly 50%.
Entirely in half.
You're saying stopping to pay a 13% tax 5 times cuts your final wealth in half.
Yes. That massive 74.8x growth multiplier we saw in the baseline scenario, it is slashed to 37.4x.
Oh, wow.
Your final value plummets from nearly 74.8 lakh down to just 37.4 lakh. Your compound annual growth rate drops from 17.9% to roughly 14.7%.
That's devastating.
You sacrifice 50% of your total ending wealth simply because you interrupted the compounding process.
Let me make sure I'm visualizing the physics of this correctly. Picture rolling a massive snowball down a very long, steep hill.
Okay, classic compounding analogy.
Right. It's gathering snow, getting bigger and bigger, building incredible momentum, stopping that snowball just 5 times on its 26-year journey, and shaving off just 13% of the newest snow each time. It doesn't just make the final snowball 13% smaller at the bottom of the hill.
No, not at all.
It cuts the entire final mass of the snowball in half. You literally lose 50% of your total potential wealth just for the privilege of paying your taxes early.
That's exactly it. The mechanism of a compounding base is highly sensitive to interruptions. See, the most explosive years of compounding are always at the very end of the timeline.
Right, because the base is the biggest then.
Exactly. That is when your base is the largest. If you profit book in, say, year 20, you are drastically shrinking your base right before the most lucrative years of the investment. Frequent full profit booking actively destroys compounding.
Man, that is a massive paradigm shift. You think you are playing it safe. You think you are locking in your hard-earned gains.
But structurally, you are dismantling your own wealth.
Yeah. And the reality of this model gets even darker when we look closely at the specific years chosen for profit booking in this case study.
Oh, the timing.
Yeah, the timing trap. The years were 2003, 2008, 2020, 2022, and 2026. Anyone who follows financial history is going to feel a knot in their stomach looking at 2 of those years.
Yeah, 2008 and 2020 were massive, traumatic global market crashes.
Right. Think about the visceral emotion of being an investor during those times. Think about March 2020. The news is saying the world is shutting down, global supply chains are halting.
It was terrifying.
Your portfolio drops 40% in a matter of weeks. You log into your account and all you see is a sea of red. Your brain isn't doing calm, rational math in that moment.
Not at all.
Your brain is screaming at you to save whatever you have left.
And that's the reality check of this whole thing. The psychology of an investor selling during a crash is entirely different from an investor calmly taking profits at a market peak.
Exactly.
The historical data shows us that 2008 is a terrible time to exit, and 2020 is the absolute worst time to sell. I mean, in a sterile mathematical model, we assume the investor calmly sells and immediately reinvests.
Like a robot.
Right. But in the real world, human beings don't do that.
They panic. They sell everything to, protect their remaining capital, and then they sit in cash, completely paralyzed by fear, just waiting for the market to feel safe again.
Well, now, by the time the market feels safe, the recovery's already happened. You missed it.
Yeah.
When you execute a full exit in years like 2008 or 2020, you aren't booking profits. You are cementing your losses right before the inevitable rebound.
Oh, that's brutal.
We're taking temporary unrealized volatility and locking it in as a permanent loss of capital.
So, wait, the model we just discussed, the one where your massive 74.8 lakh shrinks to 37.4 lakh because of the tax drag,
Yeah,
that is actually the absolute best case scenario for a deeply flawed strategy.
it really is. That 37.4 lakh assumes you still manage to capture a relatively decent exit price and immediately reinvest it without any hesitation.
Which nobody does in a crash.
Right. Because of the behavioral reality of panic selling at the bottom, your actual real-world returns would likely drop even further. You'd easily be pushed down into the 13% to 14% CAGR range.
Wow.
The gap between the wealth you could have had by doing nothing and the wealth you end up with by trying to outsmart the market, it becomes a canyon.
Okay, so we have established that the buy and hold strategy is the holy grail of returns. Capturing that 17.9% is amazing, but we also have to acknowledge the human element, right?
Of course.
Doing absolutely nothing for 26 years while markets boom, bubble, and crash, it's incredibly difficult. Holding through a 40% drawdown requires nerves of steel.
Most people just don't have that discipline.
So if full profit booking is a mathematical disaster, but pure buy and hold is psychologically impossible for most people, there has to be a middle ground. What if I just skimmed a little bit off the top, say 20%?
And that's where we get into the practical application. Finding a middle ground is essential for long-term success because a mathematically perfect strategy is completely useless if you can't stick to it emotionally.
Right. You'll just bail at the worst time.
Exactly. So this is where the source material suggests a smart strategy approach. Instead of a full exit, instead of selling 100% of your holdings to lock in gains, you only book 20% to 30% of your profits.
Okay, so you take a little bit off the table, you satisfy that psychological itch to lock something in, you put some cash in your pocket to feel secure, but you leave the vast majority of the asset completely untouched.
Yes, you are balancing emotional security with mathematical reality. By only skimming a small percentage, you minimize the tax drag.
Because you're only paying tax on that small piece.
Right, you are only paying that 13% tax on a very small fraction of your portfolio. And more importantly, you are not resetting the compounding clock on your entire net worth. You allow the engine of compounding to continue running on the bulk of your capital.
Okay, let's fix my oak tree metaphor from earlier then.
I like that one. Let's hear it.
So full profit booking isn't chopping the trunk down. It is more like taking pruning shears and aggressively cutting off all the newest, greenest growth every few years.
Okay. Yeah.
You aren't killing the tree, but you are absolutely guaranteeing it will never grow into a massive, towering oak. You are artificially forcing it to stay a shrub.
That's a great way to look at it.
But with this smart strategy, you are just occasionally trimming a few small branches to keep it healthy and shapely, while letting the main trunk and the vast majority of the canopy reach for the sky.
Exactly. It allows the base to remain intact.
Yeah.
But, and this is but there is a crucial non-negotiable rule to this middle ground strategy.
What's that?
You must absolutely avoid selling during crash years. If the market is bleeding, if there's a global panic, you have to sit on your hands. You only skim that 20% to 30% when times are undeniably good.
You cannot prune the tree while it is surviving a winter storm. You have to let it weather the freeze.
The historical data is so clear on this. Compounding requires a sturdy base that is left alone to thicken over time. Every time you interrupt it, you pay a massive, invisible penalty.
Let's summarize the sheer scale of the delta between these strategies because the numbers really are the star of the show today.
They really put it in perspective.
We are looking at a final result of 74.8 lakh versus 37.4 lakh. It is a stark, mathematically proven reminder that practicing the discipline of doing nothing, just letting the asset buy and hold, yields a stunning 17.9% return.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, giving into the temptation to tinker, trying to outsmart the market with full profit booking, literally cuts your final result in half.
It is a profound lesson in the invisible forces of finance. I mean, the tax drag makes no noise.
Right, there's no alarm bell.
You don't get a bill in the mail showing you the millions you lost out on. It is entirely silent, but it is incredibly destructive when applied repeatedly over a long time horizon.
And that silent destruction brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with today. We just spent a lot of time analyzing how interrupting your compounding a mere 5 times over 26 years with a 13% tax drag was enough to cut your total wealth by a staggering 50%.
Half your money, gone.
It slashed it completely in half. Now, I want you to think about the fees you pay for your investments, the expense ratios, the advisory costs, the hidden management fees.
Oh, it's a whole other rabbit hole.
Right. If just 5 isolated interruptions can cause a 50% drop in your total potential wealth, what is a 1% or 2% management fee doing to your money when it is silently subtracted from your account every single year, 365 days a year, for decades?
It's terrifying to think about.
It is a constant, relentless drag on your compounding base. Maybe it is time to take a very close look at the fine print on your portfolio, because as we have learned today, the roots of your wealth might be getting pruned away without you ever hearing the shears.